I still remember the exact second my life split in two. One moment I was standing in a room full of people who smiled with their mouths and measured you with their eyes. The next I was standing alone wondering how I'd become invisible without actually leaving. 3 sentences is all it took. I thought I was chosen. I was publicly rejected, and I walked away carrying something that would change everything. Yeah, that really happened. It was a charity gala in downtown San Francisco. One of those events where the lighting is warm, the music is soft, and the conversations are sharp if you listen closely. Crystal glasses clinked laughter, floated just a little too loud, and everyone pretended not to be calculating everyone else. I was there as a guest technically, but also as an employee. My name is Lila Hart, and at the time I was a senior strategy analyst at Calderon Group, one of the most powerful private firms on the West Coast. For nearly a year, I had been in a quiet, complicated relationship with our founder and CEO, Evan Calderon. He was charming in that effortless way, the kind of man who makes you feel like you're the only person in the room when he wants to. Late nights, shared jokes over cold takeout, his jacket draped over my shoulders when I stayed too long. I know how it sounds. I wasn't naive, but I was human. I believed him when he said I mattered. That night he walked up to me holding 2 glasses of champagne, smiling like he had a secret. "You look incredible," he said, handing me one. I laughed and said, "You clean up okay yourself." He leaned in and whispered, "Let's make this interesting." My heart jumped. I thought he meant interesting in the fairy tale way. He turned toward the crowd, tapped his glass, and said something about legacy, about knowing your place in the world, about how not everyone belongs everywhere. People nodded, polite applause followed, and then he looked straight at me. His smile disappeared. And that's why he said calmly, "I would never marry someone like her. She doesn't fit." You could feel the room inhale. Someone actually gasped. I felt my ears ring. I remember thinking this must be a joke, a misunderstanding, something I'll laugh about later. I didn't laugh. I handed him the untouched glass and said very softly, "Understood." Then I walked out. No tears, no scene, just heels on marble and a spine held together by pure instinct. I made it to my car before I broke. Not a pretty cry either, the kind that shakes your chest and steals your breath. And then, because timing can be cruel like that, I opened the envelope I'd been avoiding all day. The test results. 3 heartbeats. Triplets. I sat there in the dark, laughing and crying at the same time, realizing the man who had just erased me had no idea what he'd walked away from. The next morning I resigned. I didn't argue, didn't explain, didn't answer his calls. I sold my condo, packed 2 suitcases, and left the city. No dramatic goodbye, just a quiet exit. 9 months later, in a small birthing center outside Portland, I met my daughters for the first time. Nora, quiet and observant. Elise, gentle and emotional. Rowan, loud and fearless. 3 completely different souls, all mine. The first few years were chaos and magic. Sleepless nights, mismatched socks, pancakes for dinner because I was too tired to cook. I worked remotely, kept my circle small, and built a life that didn't ask permission from anyone. We laughed a lot. We struggled sometimes. But we were solid. I didn't think about Evan often, not really. He was a closed chapter. Until one rainy afternoon when an email landed in my inbox. An invitation to speak at a leadership summit hosted by Calderon Group. Same company, same building, different version of me. I stared at the screen for a long time, then closed my laptop and watched my girls sleep in a pile of blankets. Finally, I whispered, "Okay." Walking back into that building felt surreal. Same glass walls, same polished floors. But this time, I wasn't hiding. I was the keynote speaker. When I stepped on stage, the applause surprised me. I spoke about resilience, about rebuilding after rejection, about how sometimes being told you don't belong is the push you didn't know you needed. I didn't mention names. I didn't need to. From the corner of my eye, I saw him. Evan stood near the back, no entourage, no confidence. Just a man realizing the story didn't end the way he thought it would. A few weeks later, I ran into him again. A park near my house. My girls were chasing each other, laughing sticky with cotton candy. I felt it before I saw him, that shift in the air. He stood frozen, staring at them like he was trying to solve a puzzle he'd ignored for years. I stepped between him and my daughters without thinking. "Leela," he said quietly. "You don't get to say my name," I replied. My voice didn't shake. He looked wrecked, tired, smaller somehow. I didn't know he said. About them. About any of it. "You didn't know because you never asked," I said. "They're mine." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "They look like me. That's genetics," I said flatly. "Not a relationship." He asked to meet them. I said no. He begged. I still said no, not out of spite but protection. My children were not a tool for his redemption. Later that night, a box appeared on my porch. Inside were 3 smaller boxes, each labeled with my daughters' names. Journals, letters, a compass. No demands, no expectations. Just something for some day. I locked them away. Not now, but maybe later. I heard through the grapevine that Evan stepped down, sold everything, started volunteering. Good for him. Truly. Growth is personal. Life moved on. My girls grew curious. They asked about fathers, about why our family looked different. I told them the truth without bitterness. He loved me for a while, I said, but he didn't stay. That was enough. One evening, after a long day, I stood in the kitchen watching them dance to music only they could hear. And it hit me. I hadn't lost anything. I'd been redirected. The rejection that nearly broke me had built something stronger. I don't hate Evan. I don't miss him. He was a chapter, not the book. And sometimes the most powerful ending isn't reunion, it's release. So here's my question to you. When someone decides you don't belong, do you shrink or do you build your own space? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been judged wrong, underestimated, or pushed aside? And what did you do next? Let's talk about it.